This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Microsoft has announced its first tablet computer. The device, called the Surface, is designed to compete directly with the popular iPad. The computer software maker announced its new tablet in June at a media event in Los Angeles. Microsoft will offer two versions of the Surface. Each has a different processor. The Surface for Windows RT runs on an ARM processor. It is less powerful than the Surface for Windows 8 Pro, which uses an Intel processor. The RT is also thinner and weighs less than the Pro. Either tablet weighs no more than about 900 grams. Both have screens that are about 27 centimeters in size. That is a little bigger than the iPad screen. Microsoft has not said exactly when the new Surface will appear in stores, but it is expected to be sometime in September or October. This is about the same time that the company plans to release its new Windows 8 computer operating system. Brenda Estrella owns a laptop computer. She has been considering switching to a tablet. She says for her, the iPad is more of an entertainment device. In her words, if Microsoft is coming out with a tablet that actually you can type and actually do different things other than just swipe, then that would be better. Many technology lovers, including Catherine Clinch, are excited about the new device. She points out that the Surface stands by itself, so you don't have to buy a stand. Also, there is a keyboard that can also act as a cover. Those are all wonderful things, she says. But what interests her most is the potential to get rid of the netbook, to get rid of the laptop, to maybe even, down the line, get rid of the full computer. Fox Van Allen is a technology expert. He agrees the Surface seems to have more to offer than the iPad. He says it's a device that almost serves as a replacement for a PC. The Surface is meant to compete with the iPad, but not everyone is sure it is a better product. John Ayala says he is glad there is a competitor, but he is sticking with his iPad. For years, Microsoft has made software, not computers. A few earlier attempts by the company to make and sell hardware products failed. That includes the Zune music player. It could not compete against Apple's iPod. Estimates place the value of the tablet computer market at about $79 billion this year. Microsoft hopes to capture a share of that market with its latest device. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Technology company Microsoft is taking legal action against the United States government. The company opposes the Electronics Communications Privacy Act, or ECPA, of 1986. The law permits agencies to demand to read emails or online files without their owner's knowledge. In most cases, investigators must request permission from a judge to do so. Reuters news agency reports that Microsoft believes the demand violates the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That amendment bans unreasonable searches and seizures by the government. Reuters says Microsoft also argues that the law violates the company's First Amendment right to free speech. Microsoft says the ECPA was established before the development of distant computer data storage centers, known as the cloud. The company is a major operator of cloud storage for computers. It says it received more than 5,600 federal demands to access files between September 2014 and March 2015. It says more than half of the requests did not permit the company to tell the file's owners of the demand. Microsoft lawyer Brad Smith says that people should not lose their rights just because they are storing information in the cloud. The Justice Department says it is studying the lawsuit. Daniel Rosenthal formerly served as a Justice Department lawyer. He told the Associated Press that forcing the government to report to owners of files that their information is being accessed could hurt law enforcement efforts. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Microsoft says it is making progress in efforts to stop the cybercrime operation known as Zeus. In March, federal officials in the United States raided office buildings in 2 states. They seized evidence related to the Zeus family of malicious software. Richard Boscovich is with the Microsoft's Digital Crimes Unit. He says the objective of the raids was to seize evidence which might help identify the individuals behind the Zeus family of malware. The bigger goal is to identify the computers of people all over the world that are compromised. That means they have the malware on their computer, which is being used to victimize others, and they don't even know about it. Cyber criminals use Zeus to create a network of infected computers, or botnet, to steal personal information from computer users. Mr. Boscovich says the operation reaches around the world. He says this malware was present at any given point in time in at least 13 million computers worldwide. Malware means malicious software. It also can be called a computer virus or worm. Mr. Boscovich says the malware is spread through emails, where people are tricked into clicking on a link or visiting a website. And once that happens, the objective is to infect the person's computer with this piece of malware. The malware is programmed to record every keystroke as you type on a computer keyboard. It gathers details about the websites you visit, your usernames and passwords, or other personal information. The information is then sent to the botnet's command center, which is a location on the internet. From there, the criminals will direct all of the infected computers to contact the botnet from time to time to ask for directions. Much of the stolen information is sold on the black market. The information can be used to steal money from bank accounts or make purchases online without the victim's knowledge. Officials say these malware invasions are one of the main causes of identity theft. Microsoft brought a case against the Zeus operation on March 19th. The company released the details of the case after the buildings were raided on March 23rd. Next week, we'll talk more about the raids, Zeus, and what Microsoft says computer users can do to protect themselves. We will also talk about other recent efforts to fight cybercrime. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. More than 20,000 new products appeared at this year's International Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Among the attention getters were Ultrabooks, or very thin laptop computers. Also, Microsoft announced new smartphones with the Windows Phone operating system. Far from the bright lights of Vegas are the poorly lit streets of Delhi. A new mobile app called Fight Back aims to make those streets safer for women like China Sika. She often works late. A company taxi takes her part of the way home, but then she has to walk 5 to 10 minutes alone. It's dark, and the kind of people who are around are not really to be comfortable with or safe, she says. Ms. Sika uses Fight Back to follow her location with GPS, or Global Positioning System software. Jagdish Mitra is the head of Canvas M Technologies, which launched the app. He says, the moment you feel uncomfortable, you really don't need to do anything else but press one button. The woman has a few seconds to cancel her decision. If not, a message with her location will go by text, email, or Facebook to anyone she has put on a list. The location also appears on a map in the company's offices. But Mr. Mitra says his company does not serve as a public monitoring center. The law has to be managed by the people who actually are authorized to do it, which is the police and so on and so forth. Officials reported more than 400 rapes in Delhi in 2010. Many media organizations have called the city of 17 million people India's rape capital. Kalpana Viswanath is a researcher with the women's group Jagori. She works to make cities safer for women through changes like better lighting and wider sidewalks. She supports Fight Back, but has some concerns. While the app to me is very important and has a good role to play, I think what we have to be careful about is that it doesn't again fall back on women to solve their problem. The makers of Fight Back say police in Delhi and other Indian cities have expressed interest in linking to the system. Hindal Sengupta is a founder of YPOL, a nonprofit group that works on the Fight Back project. He says Indian police often do not take women's safety seriously. He says most women don't go to the police because in most parts of the country, the police are seen as more part of the problem than part of the solution. There's a video about Fight Back at voaspecialenglish.com. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Ethiopia is one of the last countries in Africa to permit mobile banking. Mobile banking has proved to be profitable in the developing world, where many people still do not use banks. Earlier this year, the World Bank reported that 75% of the world's poor are unbanked. That is about 2.5 billion people. Banking through mobile phones lets people take part in financial services even if they are not near a bank. Until recently, Ethiopia and Zimbabwe were the only nations in Africa without mobile money services. Now, that has changed for Ethiopia. Belcash and Mbir are mobile banking technology providers. They have been setting up mobile banking and mobile money services in Ethiopia for the past 3 years. The Dutch company Belcash is working in partnership with banks to provide easier access to financing through bank accounts. Ireland-based Mbir is a mobile money service that works with microfinance groups where no registration with a bank is needed. Ethiopia's mobile phone industry is young, and wireless service coverage in the country is not well developed. The pressure on the wireless network is expected to increase. In the past 4 years, the number of mobile users grew from 3 to 17 million, and Ethiopia's telecommunications provider, Ethio Telecom, expects that number to grow to 40 million in the next 3 years. The government closely controls Ethiopia's telecommunications market. That means there is only one provider. Competition is not permitted. The National Bank of Ethiopia recently finished a draft order on how mobile banking services should be structured. This comes as international companies have shown interest in starting mobile banking services. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. American lawmakers have expanded an investigation into the use of location tracking systems on mobile devices. This follows recent reports about the storing of information on the Apple iPhone, iPad, and iTouch. Questions have also been raised about Google Android devices. Some people consider location tracking to be a threat to personal privacy and security. Alan Friedman is the Research Director for Technology and Innovation at the Brookings Institution in Washington. He says all wireless companies do some amount of location tracking as part of their networks. Mr. Friedman says this information is usually stored by the companies, not the devices, and there are laws to protect it. He says law enforcement, for example, has to have a fairly high standard before it can access that data. And the phone company is also prohibited from selling that information. Congress discussed the issue of mobile privacy last year. Now, 2 researchers reported that location tracking information is being stored directly on Apple devices. They said Apple's newest operating systems gather global positioning system and timestamp information. The information is stored on the device in a file that is also uploaded to any computer that the device is connected to. The researchers say the information is available to anyone who has access to the device or computer. Alan Friedman says applications that a user buys or gets tricked into downloading might also be able to access this data and somehow misuse it. Apple said it is not tracking the location of your iPhone. The company said the phone simply keeps a database of Wi-Fi hotspots and cell phone towers near the user's location. Apple said this is meant to help your iPhone rapidly and accurately calculate its location when requested. In late April, leaders of the House Energy and Commerce Committee sent letters to some of the leading mobile device developers. These include Apple and Google. The letters asked for more information about their location tracking systems. Alan Friedman says there should be stronger controls over things like location data. He says we need to understand who is getting this information, how long they are keeping it, and what exactly they are doing with it. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. For more stories about technology and for English teaching activities, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. Mobile phone technology is quickly changing the way the world operates. Today, we tell about 2 new projects involving mobile health, also known as mHealth. Doctors and technology experts in London are developing a new way to test for sexual infections. The new device uses mobile phones and computers to help people find out if they have been infected with a sexual disease. People will be able to perform the test in the privacy of their own homes. People place urine or saliva on a small piece of paper. They place the test strip in a small device that contains a computer chip. Then they place the device in their mobile phone or a computer for testing. Within minutes, they receive information telling them if they have a sexual disease. And they receive advice on what to do next. Claudia Estcourt is with Barts and the London School of Medicine and Dentistry. She is also part of the research team working on the project. She says, "This isn't designed to replace traditional clinics. This is really opening testing up to people who might find it embarrassing or difficult to get into their clinic." Health experts say many young people are too ashamed to visit a clinic to be tested. This increases the risk of them passing on sexual diseases. The researchers hope the tests will help persuade people to be tested and reduce the number of sexually transmitted infections. Dr. Estcourt says the project is still 7 to 10 years away from completion. But she says it holds great promise for the future, especially in developing countries. In other news, researchers at the University of Toronto in Canada are studying a mobile phone system that may help people with diabetes control their blood pressure. The system collects blood pressure readings from home testing devices that have wireless technology. The readings are then sent to a healthcare monitoring system. Patients receive a mobile phone message telling them how they are doing. If their blood pressure is too high, they are advised to make an appointment with their doctor. Several high readings will cause the system to automatically contact the doctor. Patients in the study used the mobile phone system for 1 year. The researchers found that 37% of the patients were able to get their blood pressure under control. This compares with about 14% of patients using common equipment. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. One of the most important resources the United States has to offer may be its highly educated immigrants. A new study by the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, or ITIF, finds 35% of those who invent products or discover new ideas in the US were born in other countries. The group looked at inventors who have won national awards. They also looked at people who applied for international legal protection or patents for their ideas in information technology or science. And the group spoke with inventors who work for large technology companies. The ITIF study shows that most inventors have a doctorate or PhD in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. Adams Nager is an economic expert at the foundation. He says many immigrant inventors come to the United States for research and business possibilities that might not be available in their home countries. He says the study shows the value of bringing the smartest engineers from around the world to the US. They bring benefits to the economy with their new ideas and new ways of thinking about things, Nager says. The other 2/3 of American innovators are mostly white men. They are not young. The study found their average age is 47. Almost all of them have at least one advanced educational degree, like a master's or a PhD. The research also finds that women make up only 12% of inventors in the United States. For VOA Learning English, I'm Lucia Malanig.
I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Development Report. International donors have promised almost $12 billion to the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. The Global Fund held a 2-day conference in October in New York City. This is the largest pledge the 8-year-old organization has ever received. Stefan Emblad is the Director of Resource Mobilization. He said the fund received a 20% increase in contributions. Still, the pledges were $1 billion below the lowest estimate of the amount needed to fight the diseases effectively. In March, the Global Fund proposed 3 different plans, from $13 to $20 billion. The Global Fund is a partnership of public and private organizations. This fund has become the main source of money for programs to treat and prevent AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Donations support programs in more than 140 countries. Nearly 3 million people are receiving treatment for the AIDS virus through Global Fund programs. 143 million people receive malaria drugs, and 7 million new cases of TB have been diagnosed and treated since the fund began in 2002. Global Fund officials estimate that their programs have saved more than 5 million lives. Stefan Emblad says these efforts will continue. He said the organization will not be cutting funding to any of the existing programs. Those programs will continue over the next few years to put more people on treatment and to have more prevention and care efforts. But they will not be at the same level as in the last 2 years. Mr. Emblad says some of the Millennium Development Goals are still reachable with this new level of funding. He said, "We could eliminate malaria as a public health threat in malaria endemic countries. We could also eliminate the transmission of HIV from pregnant mothers to their unborn babies." He said these goals could be met by 2015 if countries see them as most important. More than 40 donor countries, organizations, and businesses attended the conference in New York. The United States promised to give $4 billion over the next 3 years, the largest donor pledge ever. The United States was the first donor to the fund and remains the largest. France is second, followed by Japan, Britain, and Canada among the top 5. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. A team of scientists in the United States has created a new kind of mouse that has an immune system similar to that of humans. The scientists hope their research with these mice will speed up development of a vaccine to prevent human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV. Scientists from the Reagan Institute of Massachusetts General Hospital, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Harvard are carrying out the new research. Earlier research has shown that certain individuals with HIV have immune systems that do better at controlling the AIDS virus. These individuals are commonly known as elite controllers. They often live longer with the virus and have fewer problems early on. Todd Allen is one of the lead authors of the new study, which was published in Science Translational Medicine. He says some people are able to control HIV very well. By using the new experimental mice, the researchers hope to learn what it is about the immune systems of these elite controllers that causes them to deal with the HIV virus better than others. The humanized mice were created using stem cells and tissue from human donors. Some of the tissue was taken from the liver and thymus. The thymus is a large gland at the bottom of the throat. It trains T lymphocytes, or T cells, to attack unwelcome microbes. In that way, it protects the body from infection. When the scientists infected the so-called humanized mice with the HIV virus, the T cell reaction in the mice was exactly the same as that of humans. Earlier research using rhesus monkeys helped scientists understand how the virus attacks cells. These monkeys were seen as good replacements for humans because they could easily be infected with the primate version of HIV, known as SIV. But genetic differences in the two versions of the virus and the immune systems suggested that monkeys were not the best candidates for HIV research. Todd Allen says the experiments with the new humanized mouse did a better job of showing what happens in the human body with the AIDS virus. He says the experimental mouse permits researchers to test the discoveries they have made about individuals infected with HIV. Todd Allen and the other researchers hope further studies with the humanized mouse will lead to an HIV vaccine. For VOA Special English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
This is the VOA Special English Technology Report. Recent developments in China and India put the issue of internet censorship back in the news. In China, the country's largest microblogging service announced new policies to restrict what its users can put online. Sina Weibo is a Twitter-like service that lets users publish short messages and pictures. There are about 300 million Sina Weibo users. The service has been under increasing pressure from the Chinese government to censor more of its content. In early May, Sina Weibo announced new policies aimed at preventing what it called offensive or questionable material from being posted online. The company said that includes information that is untrue or threatens the honor of the nation. It also includes information that promotes evil teachings or destroys societal stability. Chad Cataccio is an American-based blogger who follows technology news from China. He says the new policies are not necessarily a surprise. He says these kinds of rules have existed for a while on the internet in China. Take it for what it is, he says, and adds that at least Sina Weibo is putting the policies in writing publicly. What remains to be seen, he says, is what that means and if that's good for the users. Sina Weibo said its new policies would take effect May 28th. In April, the company deleted several user accounts after stories of a possible government overthrow spread across its service. Sina Weibo was among several microblogging services that the Chinese government punished for failing to block the rumors. Also, in March, the government announced new rules requiring microblog users to register their accounts using their real names. China has more than 500 million internet users. To control internet use, The country has one of the largest and most developed censorship systems in the world. Websites like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are blocked in China. In India, the Delhi High Court again delayed censorship hearings against Facebook and Google. The move in early May was the second time the hearings had been delayed this year. Facebook and Google are among a group of companies accused of not censoring offensive content on their websites. The Delhi High Court set a new hearing date for August 7th. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn English and find more stories about internet censorship issues at voaspecialenglish.com. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. A new website plans to use social media to help women in Egypt find unwanted sexual attention. The website is harassmap.org. The idea is to offer different ways for women to report sexual harassment as soon as it happens. For example, they could send a text message by phone, or they could report incidents directly through the website or through email, Facebook, or Twitter. The website will then map the reports with different colored dots. Purple, for example, represents unwanted touching. Blue is for loud, offensive comments or whistling. Rebecca Chow helped create Harass Map. She says most of the reports gathered during testing include more than one offense. The site also lists whether or not a report has been confirmed. Mrs. Chow is a former employee of the Egyptian Center for Women's Rights. In 2008, the center released a report on sexual harassment in Egypt. Researchers interviewed more than 1,000 women. This included more than 100 foreigners living or traveling in Egypt. 98% of the foreign women said they had been sexually harassed. So did 83% of the Egyptian women. Rebecca Chow says harassmap.org will help warn the public about areas where there is a high risk of harassment. It could also help police identify areas where security should be increased. And she says the system will provide another important service. She says the system will send a response to the person reporting the harassment. It will include a list of services that the woman can contact if she needs help with legal aid, making a police report, or finding psychological help. The women will also be able to share their stories online with other victims of sexual harassment. A similar project was launched in 2005 in New York City. Victims can go to ihollaback.org to share stories of street harassment and to upload pictures of accused offenders. There are now 10 Hollaback websites around the world, and more are planned. Earlier this month, Hollaback released an application for the Apple iPhone that lets users report harassment as soon as it happens. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can find our reports online at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at VOA Learning English. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Many Americans start to closely follow weather reports in the early fall during the Atlantic hurricane season. Predicting the strength and movement of these huge storm systems is of crucial importance. Thanks to new supercomputers, meteorologists for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, are getting better at predicting the weather as far as 6 days out. Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast last October and caused deaths and widespread damage. It was one of the costliest storms in United States history. At the time, some people blamed meteorologists for not correctly predicting the path of the storm. But weather forecasting is extremely difficult, says Ben Kiger. He is the director of Central Operations at NOAA's National Centers for Environmental Prediction in College Park, Maryland. Ben Kiger says oceans are another issue because they closely interact with the atmosphere and have a huge effect on storms. NOAA has spent about $20 million on 2 new supercomputers in an effort to improve the dependability of its forecasts. It takes a huge amount of computational power to examine data from weather satellites, ground stations, and other sources. It then takes a lot of power to predict temperature, air pressure, humidity, and wind speed. But human brains and experience are still very important to the process. Meteorologists at the National Centers for Environmental Prediction scan the same data that the supercomputers get before issuing a weather report. NOAA issues worldwide forecasts every 6 hours, every day of the year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. A hologram is a 3-dimensional image, an image that appears to have height, width, and depth. More than 30 years ago, Princess Leia gave her famous holographic plea for help in the original Star Wars movie. Since then, holograms have become bigger, better, and more widely used. Now, researchers have developed a holographic telepresence system. Traditional telepresence systems are used in video conferencing. They present 2-dimensional images. But the new system might be able to send a moving 3D image of a person over great distances and show it in close to real time. Nasser Pegambarian is the lead researcher for the project at the University of Arizona in Tucson. He says holographic technology can make people appear in places where they have never been. With the new system, the image is refreshed so often that it seems to look like a person's natural movement. An important part of the system is a screen that can refresh the holographic image every 2 seconds. The screen is made from a special photorefractive material. In experiments, the the researchers placed 16 cameras in a half circle. They took pictures of people from different positions. Then, the researchers sent the images to a different place over the internet. Lasers at the other end received the pictures and produced holographs on the screen. Mr. Pegambarian says the new material permits the images to be continually written, erased, and replaced. He says every image that you want to show only takes 2 seconds to write it, and therefore the next image comes in after that. This allows this system to be used for telepresence, that an object in one location now can be transferred or can be shown in another location in 3D. He says the more cameras and the more pictures that are used, the more realistic the holographic image appears. The researchers imagine their technology being used for things like 3D maps and movies requiring no special glasses. Doctors could use it for telemedicine. But the researchers say their holographic telepresence system is still years away from completion. A report on the system appeared in the journal Nature. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can learn about other new uses for 3D technology at voaspecialenglish.com. We'll talk more about telepresence systems next week.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. New technologies may change the way people watch movies in a theater. Instead of watching a film on the screen, audiences could enter the scene and watch the action on all sides. This is the promise of virtual reality, or VR, and 360-degree video. The idea is to make you feel like you are in the movie. Video sharing websites like YouTube and Vimeo already offer VR films. To watch, people wear high-priced headsets that cover their eyes and ears. There are other lower-cost ways to see VR films. Many people use their smartphones, placed in a special cardboard box. Then they hold it up to their eyes to watch. VR headsets are also being used for travel video. Watchers feel as if they are on the ground in another city without ever leaving home. A company called UVisit has films that advertise trips. It can also help people who cannot physically travel but want to experience other places. At the recent South by Southwest Media and Technology Conference in Austin, Texas, companies showed other new movie technologies. Japanese NHK Media demonstrated their 8K resolution 3D or three-dimensional film. The sound system for the film used 24 speakers. As music played around the people watching, sharply detailed images appeared to jump out of the screen. A company spokesman said the video and sound system cost $500,000. Theater owners will have to decide if they want to invest in these new technologies. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.